You know how some actors practically scream Hollywood the second they walk into a room? You can smell their cologne, their ego, and their publicist from 3 miles away. Yeah, Tim Robbins isn't that guy. In fact, if you passed him on the street, you might not even recognize him unless you're a diehard fan of the Shawshank Redemption Mystic River, or you just really appreciate 6'5" men with a permanent look of existential depth. But don't let the quiet stare fool you. Behind that calm demeanor is one of the sharpest, most quietly rebellious minds in modern Hollywood. He doesn't need the spotlight to make noise, his work does the talking. And trust me, it's loud in all the right ways. Timothy Francis Robbins isn't just the guy who played Andy Dufresne and crawled through a tunnel of prison sludge to freedom. He's also a filmmaker who's challenged the system, an activist who's not afraid to ruffle feathers, and an artist who's never sold his soul for a bigger paycheck. While others were busy chasing fame, Tim was chasing meaning. In a town full of people acting for the cameras, Tim Robbins has spent decades acting with a purpose. And whether you followed his career religiously or only know him from that one time, Morgan Freeman talked about him for 2 hours. This is a story worth sticking around for. Tim Robbins wasn't born in a mansion in Beverly Hills with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was born in West Covina, California in 1958 and raised in the somewhat less glamorous but infinitely more interesting world of music theater and activism. His father, Gil Robbins, was a folk singer and a member of the legendary group The Highwaymen. His mother, Mary Robbins, was an actress. So yeah, art was kind of the family business, but not in the showy red carpet way. Think more like coffee-stained scripts, guitar strings, and political debates at the dinner table. When Tim was still a kid, the family moved to New York City, a bold move that would change the course of his life. New York in the 60s and 70s wasn't exactly the safest, cleanest place to raise a child, but it was real. It was alive. It was messy in the best way possible. And for a curious kid with a big brain and an even bigger imagination, it was the perfect playground. He grew up in Greenwich Village, surrounded by artists, radicals, writers, and all sorts of people who challenged the status quo. Most kids his age were watching cartoons. Tim. He was probably watching off-Broadway plays or listening to his dad rehearse protest songs. His childhood wasn't about fitting in, it was about asking questions. And that more than anything would shape the man he became. Before Tim Robbins was a movie star or an Oscar-winning filmmaker, he was just a tall, lanky teenager who fell in love with theater. Not the glamorous Broadway kind with chandelier drops and standing ovations. No, Robbins fell in love with the gritty, weird, passionate kind of theater, where actors build their own sets, rehearse in basements, and sometimes perform in front of an audience of 3. Including someone's grandma who thought it was a church recital. His love of performance started early. He joined the drama club when he was only 12. But things really got serious when he attended UCLA's School of Theater, Film, and Television. There, he wasn't just another student with dreams of stardom. Robbins stood out because he wasn't chasing celebrity. He was chasing purpose. While some of his classmates practiced their Oscar speeches in the mirror, Tim was writing angry plays about injustice and corporate greed. Classic Robbins. In 1981, he co-founded the Actors Gang, a radical theater group that combined politics, satire, and raw emotion. Think of it as part Shakespeare, part punk rock with the splash of protest rally. They didn't just want to entertain, they wanted to provoke. And Robbins was right in the middle of it, directing, writing, acting, and often pissing off the people who preferred their theater safe and sanitized. The stage for Robbins wasn't just a platform, it was a weapon. A tool to challenge systems, explore humanity, and poke holes in hypocrisy. And honestly, that kind of creative rebellion never really left him even after he made it to the big screen. Theater was where he learned that art wasn't just about applause, it was about truth. And from that point forward, that became the heartbeat of everything he did. You know that Hollywood cliche where someone gets discovered in a coffee shop and becomes an overnight sensation? Yeah, that was not Tim Robbins. Tim's rise wasn't sudden. It wasn't glamorous. It was more like a slow-cooked stew, rich, layered, and totally worth the wait. Throughout the early 80s, Robbins played a series of small roles in film and TV, often the guy you kind of recognized but couldn't quite place. A bit here, a line there. He was like the parsley on the cinematic plate, not the main course, but adding a little flavor. But then came 1988. And Bull Durham and boom, everything changed. Tim played Nuke LaLoosh, a young, cocky fastball-throwing pitcher with the IQ of a grapefruit but the heart of a golden retriever. Paired with Kevin Costner and Susan Sarandon, Robbins held his own. And then some. The role was loud, ridiculous, and weirdly lovable, basically the perfect storm to show the world what he could do. Hollywood finally sat up and said, "Wait, who is this guy again?" And suddenly, Tim Robbins wasn't just the tall guy in the background anymore. He had arrived, and not through some fame-hungry hustle, but by showing up, doing the work, and stealing scenes with a grin and a bit of chaos. What made it even more delicious? He started dating Susan Sarandon, his co-star from Bull Durham. The press went wild. Power couple alert. And while Tim was never the guy who chased tabloid attention, he also didn't hide from it. He walked the line between private and public with the same grace he brought to his roles, cool, calm, and just a little unpredictable. All right, now we're getting to the good stuff. If there's one role that made Tim Robbins a household name, no scratch that the legend he is today, it's gotta be Andy Dufresne in The Shawshank Redemption. Released in 1994. This film didn't exactly break box office records at first, but over time it turned into a cultural phenomenon thanks in large part to Tim's unforgettable performance. Andy Dufresne is the kind of character that sticks with you. A quiet, clever banker wrongfully accused of murder, sent to prison for life. Now playing a prisoner might sound like a drag, but Tim brought something special to the role. An understated strength, a calm intelligence, and a glimmer of hope that kept audiences glued to the screen. The movie is about friendship, hope, and the human spirit refusing to be crushed. And Tim, he was the heart of it all. His chemistry with Morgan Freeman's character Red created one of the most iconic duos in movie history. The way they played off each other, honest, raw, and real, made the story feel like a shared journey. What's funny is that The Shawshank Redemption wasn't a huge hit when it first came out. Critics liked it, but audiences were slow to catch on. It took time, a whole lot of word of mouth, and then the magic of cable TV and video rentals for it to become the classic we all know and love today. But through it all, Tim Robbins' portrayal of Andy Dufresne stayed powerful and timeless. This role proved that Tim wasn't just a pretty face or a funny guy from Bull Durham anymore. He was a serious actor with depth and range, capable of carrying a movie that explored heavy themes and complex emotions. And it opened the door for even more challenging and meaningful roles down the line. So, after The Shawshank Redemption, you might think Tim Robbins would just kick back and ride that wave of fame forever. But nah, that's not how Tim rolls. He's always been the type to mix things up, take risks, and explore new territory. He's not just about big Hollywood blockbusters or playing it safe. Take Mystic River, 2003, for example. Here, Tim stepped into the shoes of Dave Boyle, a deeply troubled man haunted by his past. It was a dark, intense role, very different from the hopeful Andy Dufresne. And guess what? His performance was so good it earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. That's no small feat. Then there's Bull Durham 1988, where Tim played the charming, cocky baseball player Crash Davis. This role showed off his comedic chops and effortless charisma. It's fun, light, and a fan favorite, but also helped establish him as a leading man who could balance humor with depth. He's also dipped his toes in directing and writing, which not many actors dare to do. Tim isn't just content with acting. He wants to shape stories, control the narrative, and put his own spin on things. Movies like Dead Man, Walking 1995, which he directed and starred in, are proof of that. Throughout his career, Tim Robbins has been fearless in picking roles that challenge him, often veering away from the expected or easy path. Whether it's a quirky comedy, a gripping drama, or a socially conscious film, he dives in headfirst, bringing authenticity and heart to every character. This fearless approach has kept his career fresh and interesting for decades. It's like he's saying, I don't want to be boxed in. I want to keep surprising people and myself. So you've seen Tim Robbins, the actor, but who is Tim Robbins when the cameras stop rolling? Turns out he's just as interesting off-screen as he is on. Tim is not just an actor. He's a director, producer, activist, and a pretty outspoken guy when it comes to social and political issues. He's been involved in various causes over the years, using his fame to raise awareness about environmental issues, human rights, and peace. Tim's activism isn't just a hobby, it's a real passion. He's spoken at protests, supported organizations, and tried to make a difference through his art and actions. On the personal front, Tim has had some high-profile relationships, including a long-term partnership with actress Susan Sarandon. Together, they were one of Hollywood's most talked-about couples during the 90s and early 2000s. Even though they eventually parted ways, they've remained close and respectful of each other, especially for the sake of their children. Speaking of family, Tim is a devoted dad and has been pretty private about his personal life, preferring to keep the spotlight on his work rather than his home. That balance between being a public figure and maintaining privacy is tricky, but Tim manages it with grace. He's also a man of many talents outside of acting, music theater, and directing, have all been part of his creative journey. This multifaceted approach shows that Tim Robbins is not just chasing fame, but truly committed to storytelling in all its forms. So, yeah, Tim Robbins might be best known for the roles he plays on screen, but there's a lot more to the guy than meets the eye. His life off-camera reveals a thoughtful, passionate, and sometimes rebellious spirit who's always ready to stand up for what he believes in. Tim Robbins' career is much more than a list of movies and roles. What truly makes him stand out is the way he has managed to combine artistic talent with a strong commitment to social causes. Over the years, he has built a reputation not only as a skilled actor, but also as someone who uses his voice to bring attention to important issues. This combination is rare, and what keeps him relevant even decades after his biggest hits. His performances often go beyond mere entertainment. In films like Dead Man Walking and Mystic River, Tim dives deep into complex characters and difficult subjects, pushing audiences to think and feel in new ways. His role in The Shawshank Redemption remains iconic, symbolizing hope and resilience, qualities that resonate universally. Outside of acting, Tim's activism has inspired many. He demonstrates that celebrities can be powerful advocates for change when they choose to use their platform responsibly. His involvement in environmental, humanitarian, and political causes shows a dedication that goes far beyond Hollywood glamour. Moreover, younger generations of actors respect him not just for his talent, but for his integrity. Tim Robbins chooses projects that align with his values, even if they are risky or less commercially appealing. This courage and authenticity have earned him admiration within the industry. In a world often focused on fleeting fame and superficial success, Tim Robbins stands as a reminder that true impact comes from passion, purpose, and authenticity. His career and life story continue to inspire audiences and artists alike, proving that meaningful art and real-world action can go hand in hand. Tim Robbins' journey reminds us that success isn't just about fame or money, it's about using your talents and voice to make a difference. Whether it's through powerful performances or standing up for causes that matter, Tim shows us how to live a meaningful life both on and off the screen. His story teaches us the value of staying true to ourselves, taking risks, and never being afraid to speak out. If you're inspired by Tim's career and activism, consider what small actions you can take in your own life to make a positive impact. Whether that means supporting a cause using your skills to help others, or simply being brave enough to speak your truth, every step counts. And if you haven't yet, go watch or rewatch some of Tim Robbins' most iconic films, The Shawshank Redemption, Dead Man Walking Mystic River, and see firsthand why his work still resonates so deeply. Thanks for sticking with me through this deep dive into Tim Robbins' life and legacy. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with friends who might appreciate this story. Also, leave your thoughts or favorite Tim Robbins moments in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you.